शान्तिकम् नमो विष्णुपादाय कृष्णपृष्ठाय भूतले श्रीमते भक्तिवेदान्त स्वामिन्निति नामिने नमस्ते सारस्वती देवे गौरवाणी प्रचारिणे निर्विशेष शून्यवादी पाश्चात्य देशतारिणे जय श्री कृष्ण चैतन्य प्रभु नित्यानंद श्री अद्वैत गदाधर श्रीवासादि गौर भक्तवृंद हरे कृष्ण 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 हरे 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 राम 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 हरे हरे भूतैर्महद्भिर्यैमः पुरो विभु निर्मायश्येते यदमुष पुरुषा भुङ्क्ते गुणान् षोडशात्मकः सोऽलङ्कृशिष्ट भगवान् वचांसि मे श्रीकृष्ण शरणागतं कथा अमृतं सततपिबतम् भक्तिवेदान्त मार्गपन्थनं सर्वलोक ऋषिदेव जन्न प्रसन्नं सर्वलोक ऋषिदेव जन्न प्रसन्नं. Hare Krishna, dear Prabhus and Matajis, welcome to our morning Srimad Bhagavatam glorification and study. Today is a very auspicious day, Dattatreya Purnima. It is said that the Lord Shiva incarnated on this day of Dattatreya, Dattatreya incarnation, the combined incarnation of Lord Vishnu, Lord Shiva, and Lord Brahma. And the speciality of Dattatreya was that he is regarded as the one who is aspiring always to seek spiritual guidance and invite in his life to get spiritual instructions. So in Srimad Bhagavatam, we see how he has very nicely described on how he propagated this system of parampara. And on this particular day also is the appearance day of our beloved spiritual master, His Holiness Mahavishnu Goswami, who we are eternally indebted to for teaching us on how to study Śrīla Prabhupāda books, for making us fall in love with Śrīla Prabhupāda's books. So today's Srimad Bhagavatam verse is a very important verse. This verse is quoted so many times by Śrīla Prabhupāda and forms the crux on how we can have a refined intelligence and how we can achieve all our goals in life in a much better way if we simply approach Krishna. Let's look at this verse. Narayanam namaskritya naram chaiva narottamam devim saraswatim vyasam tato jayam mudiyayet nashtaprayeshva bhatreshu nityam bhagavata sevaya bhagavati uttama shloke bhaktir bhavati naishtiki. Om namo bhagavate vasudevaya. Om namo bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om namo bhagavate Vasudevaya. Akāmaḥ sarva-kāmo va moksha-kāmo daradīhi tivrena bhakti-yogena yajeta purusham param. Akāmaḥ sarva-kāmo va moksha-kāmo daradīhi tivrena bhakti-yogena yajeta purusham param. Akāmaḥ sarva-kāmo va moksha-kāmo daradīhi tivrena bhakti-yogena yajeta purusham param. Translation by His loving divine grace, A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Śrīla Prabhupāda ki jai. A person who has broader intelligence, whether he be full of all material desire, without any material desire, or desiring liberation, must by all means worship the Supreme Whole, the personality of Godhead. Word to word. Akāmaḥ, one who has transcended all material desires. Sarva-Kāmo, one who has the sum total of material desires. Either moksha-kāmaḥ, one who desires liberation. Udaradhihi, with broader intelligence. Tivrena, with great force. Bhakti yogena, by devotional service to the Lord. Yajeta, should worship. Purusham, the Lord. Param, the Supreme Whole. Translation again. A person who has broader intelligence, whether he be full of material desire, without any material desire, or desiring liberation, must by all means worship the Supreme Whole, the personality of Godhead. Papered by Śrīla Prabhupāda. Let's look at it. Would anyone like to read the paper?
Hare Krishna, Prabhu, can I read, please?
Yes, Mataji, please go ahead.
Śrīla Prabhupāda ki jai. The Supreme Personality of Godhead, Lord Shri Krishna, is described in the Bhagavad Gita as Purushottama, or the Supreme Personality. It is He only who can award liberation to the impersonalist by absorbing such aspirants in the Brahma Jyoti, the bodily rays of the Lord. The Brahma Jyoti is not separate from the Lord, as the glowing sun ray is not independent of the sun disk. Therefore, one who desires to merge into the supreme impersonal Brahma Jyoti must also worship the Lord by Bhakti Yoga, as recommended here in the Srīmad Bhāgavatam. Bhakti Yoga is specially stressed here as the means of all perfection. In the previous chapters, it has been stated that Bhakti Yoga is the ultimate goal of both Karma Yoga and Jnana Yoga. And in the same way, in this chapter, it is emphatically declared that Bhakti Yoga is the ultimate goal of different varieties of worship of the different demigods. Bhakti Yoga, thus, being the supreme means of self-realization, is recommended here. Everyone must therefore seriously take up the methods of Bhakti Yoga, even though one aspires for material enjoyment or liberation from the material bondage.
So one thing basically is very, very clear, that Bhakti Yoga is all in all. And in this chapter particularly, when we start reading, then one's intelligence can become clouded. That why is here Shukadeva Goswami recommending to Parikshit Maharaj to worship various kinds of demigods, to address various kinds of desires. However, in the conclusion, Shukadeva Goswami basically is mentioning this word, this verse, that actually, even if one is full of desires, if one desires liberation, or if one is without desires, in all circumstances, udaradhihi, that if the person is of udara means broader, and dhi means intelligence, buddhihi. So dhi means intelligence and udara means broader. So if a person is of broader intelligence, then yajeta purusham param. Then in all circumstances, he will worship the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Krishna. Let's read further.
Akāmaḥ is one who has no material desire, a living being naturally being the part and parcel of the Supreme Whole. Purusham Purunam has as his natural function to serve the Supreme Being, just as the parts and parcels of the body or the limbs of the body are naturally meant to serve the complete body. Desireless means, therefore, not to be inert like the stone, but to be conscious of one's actual position and thus desire satisfaction only from the Supreme Lord. Śrīla Jiva Goswami has explained this desirelessness as Bhajaniya Param Purusha Sukha Matra Swasukhatvam in his Sandarbha. This means that one should feel happy only by experiencing the happiness of the Supreme Lord. This intuition of the living being is sometimes manifested even during the conditioned stage of a living being in the material world, and such intuition is expressed in the manner of altruism, philanthropy, socialism, communism, etc., by the undeveloped minds of less intelligent persons. In the mundane field,
So basically, when we look at the life of Shukdev Goswami, then Shukdev Goswami was Akāmaḥ. Kama means desire, and Akāma means no desire. So Shukdev Goswami had no desire. But as soon as he was born, out of fear of being entangled and implicated in material life, in family life, he just left the house. It is said that his father Vyasudev called out, and only the answer came of his own voice in form of echo in the forest. So Shukdev Goswami just left. However, when he heard glories of Krishna through the verses of Srimad Bhagavatam, then his happiness knew no bound. Before he was an impersonalist, and of course he had no desires, but now his desires manifested to be aligned with Supreme Lord, and it is said the highest impersonalist and the highest personality who had no desires, his bliss and happiness knew no bounds as he immersed and absorbed himself in glorification of Krishna, hearing about Krishna, and relishing Pibata Bhagavatam Rasam Alayam. He was drinking the nectar of Srimad Bhagavatam that he heard. And in this way, it is said that all, even up to the stage of liberation, when one reaches Alayam, he is still relishing the happiness of Krishna consciousness by worshipping Purusham Param, the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Thank you. Let's continue.
in the mundane field, such an outlook of doing good to others in the form of society, community, family, country, or humanity is a partial manifestation of the same original feeling in which a pure living entity feels happiness by the happiness of the Supreme Lord. Such superb feelings were exhibited by the damsels of Brajbhumi for the happiness of the Lord. The gopis loved the Lord without any return, and this is the perfect exhibition of the Akāmaḥ spirit. Kama spirit, or the desire for one's own satisfaction, is fully exhibited in the material world, whereas the spirit of Akāmaḥ is fully exhibited in the spiritual world. Thoughts of becoming one with the Lord or being merged in the Brahma Jyoti can also be exhibitions of Kama spirit if they are desires for one's own satisfaction, to be free from the material miseries. A pure devotee does not want liberation so that he may be relieved from the miseries of life. Even without so-called liberation, a pure devotee is aspirant for the satisfaction of the Lord. Influenced by the Kama spirit, Arjuna declined to fight in the Kurukshetra battlefield because he wanted to save his relatives for his own satisfaction. But being a pure devotee, he agreed to fight on the instructions of the Lord because he came to his senses and realized that satisfaction of the Lord at the cost of his own satisfaction was his prime duty. Thus he became Akāmaḥ. That is the perfect stage of a perfect living being. Udaradhi means one who has a broader outlook. People with desires for material enjoyment worship small demigods, and such intelligence is commended in the Bhagavad Gita 7.20 as Kritagyana, the intelligence of one who has lost his senses. One cannot obtain any result from demigods without getting sanction from the Supreme Lord. Therefore, a person with a broader outlook can see that the ultimate authority is the Lord, even for material benefits. Under the circumstances, one with broader outlook, even with the desire for material enjoyment or for liberation, should take to the worship of the Lord directly, and everyone, whether an Akāmaḥ or Sakāmaḥ or Mokshakāma, should worship the Lord with great expedience. This implies that Bhakti Yoga may be perfectly administered without any mixture of Kama and Jnana. As the unmixed sun ray is very powerful and is therefore called Tivra, similarly unmixed Bhakti Yoga of hearing, chanting, etc. may be performed by one and all regardless of inner motive. Thank you, Prabhu.
Mataji, we lost Prabhu, I think. Do you want to read the verse while he comes back?
Hare Krishna. Can everyone hear me?
Yes, Prabhu, we can.
Yeah, sorry, my internet seems to be having problems, so I have to join via the phone. Yes, so as in the last line of this very important purport, Śrīla Prabhupāda says, and this is a punchline, that this implies that Bhakti Yoga may be perfectly administered without any mixture of karma and jnana, as the unmixed sun ray is very forceful and is therefore called Tivra. So this word Tivra is very, very important. Tivra basically means it's very, very intense. So here in the translation, we see Śrīla Prabhupāda say that one should by all means worship the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Tivra. So this is called unmixed Bhakti Yoga, based on hearing and chanting, etc., and may be performed by one and all, regardless of inner motive. So the inner motives, Akāmaḥ, one may be without desires, Sarva-Kāmo, or one may have all the desires in the world. But despite having all the desires of the world, if the person is worshipping the Supreme Personality of Godhead, then he is regarded as Udaradhihi. What does Udaradhihi mean? Udaradhihi means that the person is of broader intelligence. Now, why is the question is, why is a person who is worshipping Krishna regarded as Udaradhi and not a worshipper of demigod? A worshipper of demigod here, Śrīla Prabhupāda in the paper mentions as unintelligent or ones whose sense of knowledge has been stolen by material desire. So on one hand, we have devotees of Krishna. If they have material desires and they approach Krishna for material desires, they are regarded as Udaradi, a person of broader intelligence. But a person who approaches the demigods to fulfill their desires is addressed here as Hritāgnāna, the intelligence of one who has lost his senses. And what is the reason for this? So if we look at the scriptures and try to determine why worship of Krishna is regarded as supreme, is regarded as the rightful way to do things and not any other means, we can understand that when demigods give, they only give to a limited capacity of their own. Krishna says in Bhagavad Gita that even if demigods give, they give according to my injunction and as per my sanction. Nothing more than that they can give. So they are limited in that way. But when Krishna gives beyond the wildest of imaginations. The second point, when demigods give, they do not purify the desires that we have for that material thing. But when Krishna gives, and because we get in touch with Krishna, just simply by getting in touch with Krishna, even though our motivation may be misplaced, our desires are purified. The seed of lust, the seed of weeds in our hearts are completely eradicated. His Grace Bhagavatam Prabhu gave very nice analogy that our spiritual master had quoted, and he said, flood the field. So in the rice planting, the water is flooded into the field, and all the weeds, they actually have no chance of surviving, but the rice comes out nicely. Similarly, our hearts are full of desires of seeds and weeds. And we cannot simply by punya karya or simply by prashita, simply by repentance, try to get rid of all these seeds and weeds. However, tivarena bhakti yogena, if simply we undertake, is equivalent to flooding the field of our heart. And when the heart is flooded with love of Krishna, then there is no chance of the desires sprouting. There's no chance of seeds fructifying. And in this way, one completely becomes purified. But the worship of demigods can never go through this kind of purification. In fact, they become more entangled and implicated in the cycle of birth and death, and it prolongs their material existence. The fourth thing is the interaction with demigods can only be transactional. We cannot put our heart to it because only Krishna satisfies. As mentioned in Srīmad Bhāgavatam, savai pumsam paro dharmo yato bhakter adhokshaje ahitukiya pratihata yayatma suprasiddhati. Yayatma suprasiddhati. Only unmotivational and uninterrupted devotional service, ahituki apratihata, can satisfy the soul. So our heart is always thirsty for love of Krishna, and that only can be quenched by executing devotional service and connecting to Krishna somehow or the other. In Srīmad Bhāgavatam, we see the nice example of Dhruva Maharaj, and he wants to have a kingdom greater than his great-grandfather, Lord Brahma. And his mother Suruchi advises him to approach Krishna. Verse number 821, I think it says there that he's advised by Suniti that Tatha Manorvo Bhagavan Pitamaho Yame Kamatya Puru Dakshinairmakei Ishtva Pipede Duravapamanyato Bhomam Sukham Divyamatapavargyam. So Suniti says to Dhruva, your grandfather Swayambhu Manu, so Swayambhu Manu is one of the Mahajans, executed great sacrifices with the distribution of charity, and thereby, with unflinching faith and devotion, worshipped and satisfied the Supreme Personality of Godhead. By acting in that way, he achieved greatest success in material happiness and afterwards achieved liberation. which is impossible to obtain by worshipping of demigods. So the significant words here is bhaumam sukham divyam, that while on this earth we can remain happy and we can enjoy the great benediction that Krishna gives when we worship him. And after the enjoyment in material world is over, atharpavarigyam, then we can go to the abode of Krishna, and there we can enjoy with him. So there is enjoyment here, there is enjoyment there if you worship Krishna. But this process, therefore, is known as anyato. Anyato means that any other thing won't work. If we place our emotions, our hope in any other personality apart from Krishna, then that is unintelligence. So Swayambhu Manu forms a perfect example of how he worshipped Krishna exclusively, without deviation, without approaching demigods. He respected the demigods, but his heart was completely dedicated to Krishna. And this is the same advice Suniti is giving Dhruva. And she goes on to say, Tameva vatsashraya bhritya vatsalam mumukshabhe mrid padam japadatim ananya bhave nija dharma bhavita manas avasthapya bhajasva paurusham. My dear boy, you should take shelter of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, who is very kind to his devotees. Such nice word is used here, Bhritya Vatsalam. So Krishna is Bhritya Vatsalam. He's very kind to his devotees. Persons seeking liberation from the cycle of birth and death always take shelter of the lotus feet of the Lord in devotional service, becoming purified by executing your allotted occupation. Just situate the Supreme Personality of Godhead in your heart, and without deviation for a moment, engage in always his service. So what is intensive devotional service? This definition is given by Suniti Mata. She says, becoming purified by executing your allotted occupation. So we do our swadharma nicely. However, we put our heart in Supreme Personality of Godhead, Krishna, not in our swadharma. And without deviating for a moment, we engage in his service. Now, this example, Dhruva Maharaj executed perfectly. Although he was desirous of a great kingdom, but he did not put his heart in that desire. Rather, ananya bhave nija dharma bhavita. He put his heart in Krishna. And this is what Bhāgavatam says, that santushta yathi varteta, that if on the principle of satisfaction, brahmano yena kenava, if the brahmana somehow or the other remains satisfied and simply executes his swadharma, then in that way, all his desires that he may have will become like a desire cow. And this is only possible if one is firmly fixed in devotional service of Krishna. So what happens when one worships Krishna in terms of material desires? Krishna will give beyond the wildest imagination of the devotee. Number one, demigods cannot do that. They give only to a limited amount. When Krishna gives, secondly, Krishna's benediction is eternal. The time factor cannot erode what Krishna gives. But when demigods give, it has a time limit and a limit of expiry. Shine punya martya lokam vishanti. So Dhruva Maharaj got Dhruva Loka, which always remains in the universe. Thirdly, when we connect with Krishna, we feel unbound bliss and happiness. But connection with demigods make us transactional, and it doesn't fulfill the urge of the heart, which is to always experience love, bliss, and pleasure. The fourth thing, when we come in connection with Krishna, we become purified because Krishna is the supreme purifier. However, when we come in touch with demigods, because demigods themselves are full of desires, then our desires burn like fire, and our material existence prolongs. Therefore, the real intelligence means is to worship the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Krishna, whatever our motivation is, whether good, bad, or misplaced. Because Krishna is that kind father, that kind mother, that simply when we approach him, he will do all good. And this, in simple terms, Prabhupada puts it as pure devotional service. Therefore, is all in all. And pure devotional service attracts the most powerful Krishna himself. So I realize we've reached 7 o'clock mark. Does anyone have any questions or comments? Okay. Just announcement. So this evening, we'll have the Vyas Puja of His Holiness Mahavishnu Goswami Maharaj. So please, everyone, it'd be nice to have your Sangha so that we can hear glorification of Maharaj. And on this day, I really wished we had His Grace Bhagavat Ashraya Prabhu, but he's flying to Sydney today because His Grace Bhagavat Ashraya Prabhu had a lot of association with our Guru Maharaj. In fact, when our Guru Maharaj took Vanaprastha, took to devotional service and moved into the temple, His Grace Bhagavat Ashraya Prabhu was the temple president in Soho Street Temple in London. And so I know a few things that Prabhuji previously has told me about Maharaj, and Krishna willing, we'll be able to share that. Jai Grantraj Srimad Bhagavatam ki Jai, Śrīla Prabhupāda ki Jai. Have a wonderful Krishna conscious day, and Krishna willing, we'll see you all this evening. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. Thank you so much, Prabhu.
Thank you, Prabhu.
Thank you, Prabhu. Hare Krishna.
Hare
Thank
Krishna,
you, Prabhuji.
Thank
Hare
you.
Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
Hare